The man was happy. He had already won it all. His name was George Foreman, and he was a preacher now. He had a big family and a warm smile. The boxing ring, with its bright lights and loud crowds, was a memory from a different life. He had fought the greatest fighters and become the king, the heavyweight champion of the world. But that was long ago. Now, his days were filled with prayer, helping kids at his youth center, and telling stories of a loving God. He had found a deep peace that no championship belt could ever give him. This quiet happiness was everything to him. He didn't miss the roar of the crowd or the sting of a punch. He had retired, leaving the brutal sport behind. His new life was gentle. He was a father, a husband, and a guide to his community. He had traded his boxing gloves for a Bible. The world saw a man who had nothing left to prove. George Foreman, the fearsome fighter, was gone. In his place was a kind man who loved to laugh. But a storm was coming, one that George could not see. The money he had earned with his fists, the money that kept his family safe and his youth center open, was disappearing. Bad advice from people he trusted had led him down a dark path. One day, he woke up and realized almost everything was gone. The preacher who helped so many was now the one who needed help. He was on the edge of losing it all. The fear was cold and sharp. How could he tell his wife? What would happen to the kids who saw his center as a safe place, a second home? The thought of closing its doors was a pain worse than any punch he had ever taken. He prayed for a miracle, for a sign, for any way out of this darkness. He was a man of faith, but his faith was being tested like never before. He felt lost, with the weight of his world pressing down on him. He looked at his hands. These were the hands that had brought him glory so many years ago. They were older now, softer, but they remembered the work. He had one thing left, one skill that the world had paid to see. He had the power to fight. The thought was crazy. He was old, visibly out of shape, and the boxing world had moved on. But what other choice did he have? He had to save his family. He had to save his center. So, the decision was made. George Foreman would return to the ring. He was 45 years old. This was not a comeback for glory or for fame. This was a comeback to keep the lights on. Many people laughed. They saw an old man trying to relive his past. They saw a joke. They didn't see the desperate father, the worried community leader. They didn't understand the fire that was reignited by fear and love. The first day back in the gym was a hard lesson. The body he had was not the body he remembered. It was slow and heavy. Every movement was a struggle. Younger fighters, quick and strong, moved around him like he was standing still. The air burned in his lungs. The sweat poured off him, a sign of just how far he had to go. It was humbling. It was painful. It was the price he had to pay. He didn't just train, he went to war with himself. He chopped wood for hours, building the old strength back into his arms and shoulders. He ran long, slow miles on country roads, his heavy feet pounding the pavement before the sun came up. He hit the heavy bag until his knuckles were sore, remembering the rhythm of the fight. He ate simple food, turning away from the cheeseburgers he loved. Every day was a test of his will. His family watched with worry and with pride. They saw the pain he was in, the exhaustion in his eyes. But they also saw his spirit, the unbreakable part of him that refused to quit. They knew he wasn't doing this for himself. He was doing it for them. Their belief became his fuel. When his body screamed to stop, he thought of their faces, and he pushed through for one more round, one more mile. Slowly, the old fighter began to reappear. The weight started to come off. The punches started to land with a familiar, heavy sound. The timing, once lost, began to return. He was still older and slower than everyone he would face, but he had something they didn't. He had wisdom, and he had a power that came from a deeper place. He knew how to take a punch and how to give one that could end a fight. His first few fights back were against men who were not champions. But they were young and hungry. They wanted to be the one to say they beat the great George Foreman. George moved carefully in the ring, taking his time. He was not the fast, aggressive fighter of his youth. He was a patient hunter, waiting for the perfect moment. He won, but people still weren't convinced. They said he was fighting easy opponents, that he would be destroyed by a real champion. But he kept fighting, and he kept winning. With each victory, a little bit of the doubt faded. He was still a long shot, a curiosity. But he was climbing the ladder, one slow step at a time. He smiled and joked with reporters, always friendly, always humble. He talked about his grill and his family. He didn't look like a man preparing to face the most dangerous fighters on the planet. He looked like everyone's favorite uncle. Then came the call. He was being given a chance to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world once again. His opponent was a young, powerful champion named Michael Moorer. Moorer was fast, strong, and in the best shape of his life. He was everything George was not. Almost no one believed George had a chance. The experts said he was too old, too slow, and would get badly hurt. The night of the big fight arrived. The arena was buzzing. Everyone was there to see if the old man could really do the impossible. When George walked to the ring, he looked calm. He was wearing the same shorts he had worn in his famous fight years ago against Muhammad Ali, the fight he had lost. It was a strange choice, a reminder of his biggest failure on his biggest night. For most of the fight, the experts looked right. Moorer was too fast. His punches were sharp and quick, snapping George's head back again and again. George kept moving forward, walking through the punishment, but he was losing. Round after round, the younger champion was winning easily. George's face began to swell. He looked tired. The dream seemed to be dying with every punch he took. His cornermen, the people there to help him, were worried. They told him he was losing badly. They said he needed a knockout. He needed a miracle. But George just nodded. He knew. He had been in this place before. He knew that a fight is not over until the last bell rings. He was patient, absorbing the punishment and waiting. He was looking for one single opening, one mistake. Through 9 long rounds, he took the best the champion had to offer. He was far behind on points. There was no way he could win by outboxing his opponent. The crowd could feel the end was near. It seemed the old man's journey was about to have a sad ending. The fairy tale was not going to come true. It was a brave effort, but it was not enough. Then, in the 10th round, it happened. For a split second, the young champion dropped his hands just a little. It was a tiny mistake, one that most fighters would not have even seen. But George saw it. It was the moment he had been waiting for all night, all year, all through the painful training and the lonely mornings. It was his one chance. He threw a short, powerful right hand. It wasn't the fastest punch, but it was perfectly timed and incredibly strong. It landed right on the champion's chin. There was a loud, solid thud. The champion's eyes went blank. He fell to the canvas, hard. The whole world went quiet for a second, in total shock. The referee started counting. 1, 2, 3. The champion tried to get up, but his body would not listen. 4, 5, 6. He was a great fighter, but he was not getting up from that punch. 7, 8, 9, 10. It was over. The crowd exploded. Against all odds, the impossible had happened. At 45 years old, George Foreman was the heavyweight champion of the world again, the oldest man ever to win the title. He calmly walked to a neutral corner, knelt down, and prayed. He was not celebrating wildly. He was giving thanks. The long, hard road had led to this incredible moment. He had done it. The victory was more than just a title. It was a promise kept. The money he earned saved his family from ruin. It kept the doors of his youth center open for the children who needed it. The comeback that the world thought was a joke had become a story of hope. It showed that it's never too late to fight for what you love. George Foreman did not stay champion for long. That was never the point. He had done what he came to do. He proved that faith in yourself and a powerful reason to fight can overcome anything. He went back to his life as a preacher, a father, and a man who sold grills with a big, warm smile. But he was also a legend, a man who showed the world that the heart of a champion never truly gets old.